everybody.
Okay.
Absolutely. Here we are. All right. All right. So welcome, welcome. I'm here today with the beautiful Maestra Kerr. And oh my goodness, we got more people coming in. That's wonderful. Um, and I was so honored to meet Kelly when I went to the waterfront in Renton. What, 2 weeks ago was it, Kelly, or three? Something like that.
New
And
moon.
yeah,
Looking
and
forward.
there were a few. Amanda was there, Wiki was there, and Kelly came in, and we just had the best time. We really, really did. So, I want to welcome you first. So let me welcome you and thank you for being here. Yes. So, and we're going to say hello, Valerie. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that you're here. Yeah. And we've got Viviani and Book Bewitched and Craig Dixon. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm sure there'll be more people coming in. Um, but when we were in Seattle and I started hearing all about your story, which I love story, and how it really has influenced your life, and what you have accomplished in making that sort of dream fit a reality, which is a class you offer. Yeah. I want to talk more about that. And I was telling Kelly that I found these beautiful cards, the Siren song, and we're going to talk about what a siren is as we go along. But I want you to know, if you have any questions for Kelly, please post them in the chat, and I will absolutely click on and let her answer those questions as we go along. So thank you. All right. Yeah. So Carolyn Booker and Deb B. Kane came in. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. So let's go ahead and start with, let's start at the very beginning.
A very good place to start.
That's right. So yes, the sound of music really epitomizes my journey through life. And so it just seems very appropriate that came through, that Julie Andrews moment, But Kelly went to school to be a voice major. Would that
An
be
opera
right?
singer.
An
I was
opera?
trained as an opera singer. Yeah.
I had no idea. Now, see, I'm going to learn something new today too. So yes, so she was trained as an opera singer. And I just want you really to give us a little bit of your story, your background, and we'll go from there. So however
Okay.
comfortable.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Allie.
Oh, you're
Well, I began my studies when I was about this high. I was 9 years old.
Mhm.
Because I was one of those little kids that you would see on the Star Search or The Voice with these grown-up operatic voices when they're little. And so I immediately went into very intense voice lessons, like
Mm.
the bones, so that I wouldn't hurt my voice. And that was just the time where choirs and performance was very, very big in schools as well. So I also had classes in school and my private lessons, and I began performing all over the place. I was
Uh-huh.
the little girl with the big voice. And what people didn't understand is that, yes, I had a big voice and I was encouraged. And my mom had a really good ear. So if I did anything wrong, I immediately knew about it
Oh
and
boy.
could correct my course. But
Okay.
from that point on, I was guided into very rigid training. But
Mhm.
what people don't understand is that yes, the talent is there, but it really was a lot of rudimentary exercises and daily practices and performances and corrections and
Mhm.
beginning more and more advanced repertoire. So I learned all the hidden skills that other people ascribe to talent. And then, of course, there were just many, many hours of
Oh yeah.
practice, just
Yeah.
lots of practice. So, again, what people think are this special talent really are a bunch of rudiments placed together so that you
Mhm.
train the body to make sound in a certain kind of way.
Mhm.
And what I found is that over time, first of all, I was challenged that if I could sing opera, I could sing anything.
Oh,
So that is
really?
not exactly true.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it would be. Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
because I was challenged, I wanted to know what was the through line. I should be able to go from an operatic piece to a rock piece, from rock to whatever other style, because there is a through line of training. And lucky
Okay.
for me, I happened to be gifted the right teachers who knew that information, and trained me very strictly in
Okay.
a method so that my little voice, and as I grew older, or my big voice, I didn't hurt myself, which never
Mhm.
happened because
Oh,
I
good.
had really strong technique.
Mhm.
But then as I became older, well, my mid-20s, I just I don't want to sing opera. These are old songs, and everybody has an opinion about
Right.
how you could sing them.
I'm supposed to
And
sing it, yeah.
ugh, and you're never going to sing it as well as some dead person, that's on a
Right,
recording from 40 years. I mean, I'm never going to sound like Maria Callas and being,
right,
it just wasn't, it just
sure.
took the joy out of it. But I had the techniques.
Right,
And then I could untrain my voice from the operatic style and learn what are the fundamentals that do go through every style. And
right.
that's why I created the Kelly Kerr vocal method,
Mhm.
because there are just so many myths out there
Sure.
about voice.
Right.
And the information is like in the ivory towers of the voice studios here and there. And if you don't
Sure.
have these special little things to do that are tricks and skills, then again, you'll go back to thinking it's magic. I
Right.
mean, yes,
Well,
it is magic.
it is magic. Yeah,
It's
it's,
magical,
yeah,
but it's
inspire and not aspire. But it's all about I mean, I'm not trying to simplify this, but as a person who was also a singer, but not like you, and when I was a kid, I was in several, talent shows or whatever, but it was all about the breath. You're not, if you have if it's too shallow, if you're not
yes.
using your breath right, then you're not going to make that melodious sound. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely true. That's what sound is. Sound
Okay.
is breath
Yeah.
moving.
Right.
But if, let's say, this is the regular amount of air that you're used to having, air in, air out, air
Uh-huh.
in, air out. When you're really using your voice, your body has to get used to having this much air. And you
Sure.
use a little bit of air, and then you always are suspended with more air all the time. You're always breathing on top of full. There's always the sound waves are moved, creating more air
Mhm.
pressure. Your body swells. With voice lessons, you know what order that's going to happen.
Right.
If you don't, you can't just take a breath in and blow it out. That's really not how your voice
No,
works. You have to learn how to do it in a certain order so your body
it's more so
welcomes.
a lot of people sing from the throat and not
Sure.
from the diaphragm, would you say? Yeah.
A lot of yes, and,
Mhm.
those are
Mhm.
2 good questions right there, right there. A
Okay.
lot of people sing from the throat because you can get away with singing
Yeah.
very low from the throat if you're just in your speaking range.
Sure.
You don't need a lot of air, but as you work with the design of your body naturally swells.
Uh-huh.
So, that was the first part. We try to talk like we sing or sing like we talk. And the problem
Okay.
is that, again, most of us talk at a very low volume,
Sure.
whereas, we need more air to move to create
Mhm.
both the sound and the resonance. And the second part of your comment was about using our diaphragm.
Mhm.
And I'd like to mention just technically that, the diaphragm, it separates the upper from the lower part of your body, and
Mhm.
it's an umbrella shaped muscle, and it
Uh-huh.
pushes the air out and draws the air in. If the body doesn't have the proper posture and isn't set up right, and there's a
Yep.
lot of tension in your jaw or in your throat, you can't unlock what your diaphragm is supposed to do. So I don't even teach diaphragmatic breathing until
Okay.
a little later,
Later.
because we
Sure.
have to unlock the lips, the tongue, the head, the shoulders, all the things, all these personality gestures that we just tend to do because that's what we're used to, and we don't like
Yes,
Gomer
yes, yes.
Pyle, his voice was, is stuck in that character he was playing, and then he went
Sure.
he sing, and
Then
you
he'd
just like,
sing and you'd blow your mind. Yeah,
yeah.
I
He knew
know.
exactly what
Yeah,
levers to unlock, and
right,
out came his real voice. His
sure.
real voice.
Yeah,
That was
which
his
is
real voice.
very fascinating because we use that word voice in everything, including writing. When I teach a class, I'll ask people to read something and let me know what their voice is of the author.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, and it isn't that this voice, it's how they speak through their words, written words. So you can take this and you can really assimilate it and we always hear the finding your voice.
Ah,
We
I'm
hear
so
people
glad you
say,
mentioned that.
yeah,
Can I just say, to answer that, this is
yeah,
a big deal. I mean, what you are doing, you're helping people formulate their thoughts,
right.
see the story, create an arc of story, suss out the characters. But there comes a time when you have to unlock the vocal mechanism and voice
Right.
these different that you may not be used to, but you're limited by your regular attitude, like your shtick.
I'm sorry, but you're so right. Yes.
We just get, suppose you have to like do it like a hot love scene. Oh no, maybe I better not say that. But to talk like this, and you just, you might be having great feelings.
Right. Or you could be like
But
Marlon Brando, right?
yeah, hey baby. Hey
Yes.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Wow.
what people don't understand is that's a big deal to go. If you're the kind of person and you're let me see, let me just pick a kind of like a bored voice, and you're just very bored. You're boring. You're
Right.
bored, and
Yeah.
you might be having a wonderful experience, but it
Oh, I'm
doesn't
having the time of my life.
having the
Yeah.
greatest time. Yeah. And it doesn't, if that's what you're used to talking, and suddenly you want to find your voice,
Right.
that's a big shift
It
to
is.
let go of this identification of this persona.
Mhm.
And then suddenly that you're just going to be happy go lucky because, yeah, actually you
Mhm.
are. It's
Yeah.
what we've identified this shtick, or this regular way of talking, as us,
Right.
when it's just one aspect of our personality. We are authentic beings that have high, lows, and in between moods, and our voice
Yes.
matches the tone. But
Matches
if,
that.
but if we're
Mhm.
stuck,
Right.
we don't even know which levers to pull.
Sure.
And
That's very
again,
true.
and
Yeah.
then we feel, then there's this inner dialogue that I'm not being authentic because my
Right.
authentic person is
Is
boring.
this person. Right, right. It reminds me of the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Bueller, Bueller. He's calling his name. But somebody asked here and said they don't like loud voices. Well, I don't like loud voice, and I don't think it has to be loud to be a commanding voice, to be an authentic and serious, a happy voice. It doesn't. So, in other words, loudness is not one of the components of it, is it?
Yes, it
It's not.
is. It
Oh,
is
it
too.
is. Okay.
Absolutely, it is.
Okay. Okay.
We have an ability to go from soft to loud, and
Okay.
everywhere in between, a nuance, high, or we can talk low. This is
Okay.
what our instrument does in a natural state. Now,
Okay.
we don't know what we're doing, and we're trying to talk
Hmm.
louder so people can hear us. The voice can get screechy and lose its expressiveness because you're pushing against the throat and
Yep.
you're not working with the instrument. So
Right.
in order for the voice to go louder, it has to be moved up a little higher in pitch. So,
Okay.
and those are techniques. So,
Sure.
if you don't like loud voices, it might be about you not liking loud voices, or it's just not a good sound to the person making that sound. But everybody should
Yeah.
know the full
Right.
range of their voice.
So I'm thinking though that most of the time when I associate a really loud voice, it might be an angry voice because people tend to escalate their voice if they're angry about something or they want to make a point about, or they're arguing about something. So again, you're right. It may be about our experience with that loud voice that would make us feel that way.
You know, in voice classes or private lessons, when we
Mhm.
start to amplify that sound,
Yeah.
that comes up.
Okay.
And in fact, that's, you know, in a voice studio, you have a piano, you have a mirror, and you have a box of Kleenex,
Right.
you know, of tissues,
Okay.
because this stuffed emotion, unexpressed, non-word stuff is pushed down. You start accessing that
Mhm.
reservoir, and it's just waterworks.
Sure.
And the
Okay.
resistance to that loudness often uncovers an inner rage. It just plain does. Anger at
Okay.
having to be quiet all the time. Find another way to say it. You know, don't be so loud. Well,
Wow.
there are ways to make
Yeah.
yourself
Your
heard.
voice
And
heard.
if you're angry, there are ways to use your voice. So you can
That's
express
wonderful
your
to know.
anger without hurting others. That's just
Right.
a
Right.
skill.
I, love my mother dearly, but she would never let me speak back to her about anything. You couldn't argue with her. She just wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to learn that voice eventually. And I had to learn that it was more about boundaries I had to set, let's say, than, being angry about not being able to talk about what I felt at the time. So, yeah.
Whew.
I
Yeah.
know. And we all have something like, I'm not saying everybody has the same thing, but we all have something that has us lose our voice at times or in our past. And, working on that could only be good. It could only be fabulous.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have 2 different courses I'll tell you about later, but
Okay.
the one of them is the speaking voice course, and
Mhm.
the one of the assignments is to identify 2 personas that you would like to occupy.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to tell a funny story. I would like to have an authoritative voice that is authoritative without being bossy. Okay, let's
Mhm.
practice
Mm.
that. Let's create
Okay.
a character
Yeah.
and a voice. It's your voice. It's
Right.
authentically yours.
Correct.
And it is an
Correct.
aspect within your personality that needs voice. So we
Uh-huh.
practice them. So
Yep.
sometimes we'll play random, drop the, well, there's not a phonograph, but random voices. Flip the channel on your screen and sound like the person that is
Oh,
speaking, to just
okay. Yeah.
adapt different kind of vocal movements.
Wow. Wow, wow,
Or
wow.
if you see an authoritative person that delivers something
Uh-huh.
you like, do that. Have them speak a line, you speak their line, and let your body adapt to that voice and find your words and
Find your
be
words. Yeah.
kind.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. It almost seems to me, it reminds me a lot. It's not the same, but it reminds me a lot of the students that I get that are not readers and now are expected to be writers. And I do believe if you have something to model and you've read, it's much easier to write than it would be otherwise. But
Oh,
they're not
mhm.
choosing to do that. So I'm getting them at the ages of, 17 and above. Oh, I don't read. I don't read anything, maybe a text or something. And it's hard to find your own authentic voice if you have never read somebody else's authentic voice. And I
Oh,
would imagine it's the same way with singing, especially, and not to put down any type of singing, but if the only kind of singing you've ever listened to is rap, well, you're going to talk like that. You're going to sing like
yeah.
that. Yeah. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it is an experience to be lived, and it is a form of expression. So I'm not knocking any particular type of vocals or singing voice. But it is interesting that what my point is, I think, is I wish we could get this into the school system in the junior high years, is what I'm trying to say.
Valerie said that too.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
agrees. Just and do you know remember we had to read in school? We
We
had
did.
to read out
Yes.
loud, and they
Mhm.
used to be called elocution classes.
Elocution. That's right.
Elocution. Yeah.
And
And
we
now
had
we
to
just
write in
have to talk
cursive.
too far, only as
Yeah,
far as the
that's
phone,
true.
and
Yeah.
again, we sound like we're screeching oftentimes when
Yes.
we suddenly we're raising our voices and our throat hurts because we just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know my husband will get on the phone and it's as though he feels he really has to talk loud so somebody can hear him on the other side of the country. And I'm like, honey, you don't have to, they can hear you. You don't have to talk that loud,
I do the same thing because I do
So
the
do I.
same to
I'm
myself.
sure I do.
Not
Yeah.
that loud, but I do speak louder when I'm having a good time and I'm more oxygenated, I'm more animated, and my voice goes louder until I can modulate it. But that's kind of
Sure.
normal, I think.
It is. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. Craig says it should be taught actually from kindergarten on. And yeah, the sooner the better, really. Absolutely, Craig. And it really comes down to this, I believe, and I don't know the answers to very many things, but as far as reading goes, it's the love of reading that gets instilled by the parents or the caregivers that really makes the difference. If somebody whatever they value is what you value. So don't you think that was your case? Your mother was a singer, or your mother had a very good tone? And
my mother had a really great ear. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't allowed to sing any notes that weren't perfect. So that's why I'm a teacher, because I'm always shaping sound, doing very specific things with my tongue and breath and head and,
Okay.
all the tech. It's flat. You're flat.
Did you ever wish that she just would go away and stop saying things like
Always.
that? Oh, I bet. Okay. Yeah. It is. It's you want to do the best you can, but when you get negative feedback like that, it's very, very difficult, I think, for us, because we feel like we're told that. So what happened with me was, when I had my kids, I tried to tell them they could be anything they wanted to be, and they could, but then the downside to that is they came back to me, and when they got older, and they said, you said I could be anything I want to be, but I'm not able to do that. You all gave us a bill of goods, and it's like, what do? You do the best you can. And they're older now and they understand that, but I didn't want to sell anybody a bill of goods. I just
But
wanted.
what was there? So I'm sure they had a way for you to amend that. I wish you would have said.
Yes.
What did they say?
He said it was my generation, so I couldn't have, and so it would have been the generation that we are in, and that we're the ones that wanted to give the award to the kid just because he was on the team, even if he didn't play well, because it was more of a community environment for kids. And I said to my son, we did the best we could. We really did believe you could do what you wanted to do. We didn't want to hold you back. But, as far as being disappointed by anything that you decided to do, that's not on me. I've never been that. I've always been very supportive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, my nephew told his dad that he wished that my brother had been harder, had been more demanding and stricter. And my brother said, really? Who knew? I mean,
that part comes easy. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
It's like holding back.
So, Kelly, I want you to be able to talk a little bit about the classes that you do offer, and then we'll move into talking about the Siren, because I think that's good. I think that's something everybody wants to know about. So, tell us. You have two, you said. Tell us.
I do. I'm offering one, just the very bones of your voice, in an 8-week class, which is twice a week for 8 weeks. And that's because I've learned with adult learners, take your pardon, adult learners have a tendency maybe to not practice unless so these are the actual in the proper order rules about your voice. So the first thing we do is we take away what you already think you know, even if you're professional, whatever. We start at the beginning, as you would when you start with a new voice teacher. And then for 8 weeks, twice a week, I'll take you through some very rudimentary, the bones of your voice that are what create the most advanced techniques. I've just distilled them down to, you must know this in this order. So
Mhm.
for instance, the diaphragmatic breathing doesn't even happen until later in the course because there's so many things to unlock so
Oh,
we
yeah.
can
Sure,
use the diaphragm, right?
sure, sure.
And so I'm just giving the very basics, but in a very structured, it would be like a college 101 course. You must
Sure.
know these
Yeah,
things so that
I do.
before you go to a voice teacher or you come to me for voice lessons, these things need to be in place. And everybody else thinks everybody else knows them. And they go, oh, I know that. Nobody knows it. They just
No, they
think they
don't.
do, and
They just
I
think
have
they
to
do.
use
Yeah,
those skills like
yeah.
every day. I'm doing exactly what I'm teaching you, like a ballet class or
Mhm. Sure.
a martial art.
Yoga,
There are
starting yeah,
forms.
martial arts. I've done
Yeah.
that. Yep,
There are
yep.
forms that you learn and then you start putting them together and
Correct.
magic happens. So that's the fundamentals course.
Okay.
I have it scheduled for one course, but if there is a group of people, two or more that would like to engage in a course, I can do group rates because I really want people to come with a buddy
Sure, sure,
because it's
sure.
really hard
And
to
practice.
learn in an
Yeah,
8-week class by yourself, but I can't make it any shorter. I'd like to
I
make
get
it
it.
longer, but I
Yeah.
can't make it any shorter and give you the education you really should know about your voice. So that's the fundamentals course. And then
Mhm.
there is a speaking voice course where you
Okay.
just get out of your shtick and start finding some skills to increase your personal presence, increase
Uh-huh.
your breathing, and find out some other ways to express your speaking voice. So if you go to my website, they're on there, speaking
Okay.
voice or
Yeah.
singing voice, vocal fundamentals.
So this just came to mind, and I'm gonna put it out there for you as well.
Mhm,
I wanted to teach more classes on spirituality or tarot cards or some of those things. And so I went to my community colleges continuing ed or community classes. I'm sorry, they're called
mhm.
community ed. And I had like 10 or 12 people sign up. We only did it for 4 weeks. But they're always looking for wonderful people with new ideas. So I'm just going to throw that out there to you
Okay.
because
All right. Thank you.
I want you to have all the tools in your toolbox in order
Okay.
to be successful because I think you've got some really wonderful things to share,
Thank
and
you.
I that's very empowering. So
Thank you.
that's really awesome.
Okay.
All right, you're welcome. Any questions at all for Kelly before we move into the discussion we're going to have on the siren? I don't know. Oh, so Thomas, you're going on a cruise, but you're giving free readings. Well, how much fun is that? I've heard people do that like in McDonald's. They'll go in with their tarot cards and they'll just sit there and people will come over and they'll read for them. Isn't that fun? Maybe you can do that in McDonald's too, Kelly. You can go in and start doing. It's always the unusual thing that people don't think will work that can work. It really is. So, all right. So I don't see anything. If I see anything, I'm going to bring it up. But I want to talk. So as we were talking when we were together, um, I have, of course, heard of sirens before, and I don't mean police sirens, and I don't mean ambulance sirens, but the siren of the sea. In the Iliad and the Odyssey. I think it's in the Odyssey that it shows the sirens show up a lot. And if you also have watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I believe that they use the sirens in there, in that more modern day telling of the Odyssey in some ways. So that's an important thing. But the sirens have been described as muses of the lower world, sea nymphs or deities, and half angels, half birds. But we can agree on one thing: the song remains the same. The siren song begins in the middle of the day when the winds are calm and the sun is high. Their seductive laments were so hauntingly honey-sweet that Homer described ill-fated sailors with unanointed or unplugged ears who couldn't resist listening despite the danger of being lulled into a daymare or a listlessness that would end in a shipwreck and death. And so this is how this woman decided to, and it isn't Kelly that made this. I just want everybody to know it isn't her deck, but it is a fabulous deck that I just got that combines Lenormand and Kipper cards to sort of plumb your own depths. So I'm going to let Kelly talk about the siren in the way that you would like to do it. Yeah.
Our natural voice before language is a siren. We have long, the resonance moves inside of the body in a certain way. When you speak in or sing and make your voice happen in a certain way, it happens in a long line. It's not cut off in the throat. When you take all the words away, it sounds like a siren.
Okay.
When we practice our songs, when I practice my song, I run the sound through the labyrinth of my body in the up and down of the melody and feel it as it goes inside of my body on a very specific path. Now, I have a little problem with, I wouldn't say I have a little problem. I have some feelings about that the sirens' escapades in the literature that you just mentioned are the only stories that survive. All the great libraries of the world were burned to the ground, in which you would have found many, many stories about sirens and mythological creatures.
Right.
What happens when we work with when our voice, our words match, even if we aren't using words, when we're running our sound inside of our body on this pure tone that is our natural voice, it affects our consciousness, period.
Okay.
We're moving, the vagus nerve is being stimulated, the sinuses. And when you talk about the cerebral spinal fluid, it moves the cerebral spinal fluid. It accesses, when a sound rings true, what that means is that the vibration that's created in the larynx has found its perfect resonating space, and the sound goes ding, 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 and it tends to be a very pleasant tone that moves up and down the full expanse of the range without breaks or cracks. You want to listen to it. It flows and it turns on the higher mind. It's your true integrity. So that is, and when we are working with that voice, we have experiences. We cry. We start to put things together. We're outside of our regular everyday speech, gesture, and personality. So to practice just the siren sound, it begins to stimulate. Oh yeah, we feel better. We have more energy. There's more air moving, and the spaces that are usually closed down because we're by ourselves at home.
How
and
true
we're
is
not
that?
really, we're just talking or, not thinking, I'm fine. How are you? We don't stimulate if we're not using our voices. We tend to not stimulate that higher mind.
Right.
So, a voice person goes to the piano or their instrument and begins just to run some sound to begin to stimulate that's what I'm doing. Now I remember who I am, why I'm here. Anyway. So if you heard me sing in my big, real voice and I was warming up, you'd be looking for the siren outside, because that sound, that siren sound that you do as a child, that carries. It can be heard. And it stimulates inside the body. I had many, 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 many people walk outside their houses and look down the street like, where's the siren? Like, me practicing.
Me. Yeah.
Letting it down.
Wow.
Yeah. And everybody has that.
Everybody does. That they just have to be able to access.
When you were little, didn't you play like you were a siren? Like you were a siren truck? A fire truck?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and see, there you are, right on your siren voice. That is it. And you'll notice there's a musical pattern that it follows.
Yes.
And, go ahead.
I was just thinking, I also do it like like if I'm a trumpet sometimes. I know that sounds weird, but I'll, yeah. Up here. Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
get it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what you need to do to start blowing some sound and vibration, getting things rolling up there.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
That's awesome. So Carolyn's husband, he was a Coldstream Guard in the Coldstream Guard band, and he worked at the Royal College of Music. So he's enjoying this discussion. That's great. Yeah, it's great. Peter. Hi, Peter.
Yeah.
It's good you're here with Carolyn.
Thank you.
A
Yeah.
lot of people love Amazing Grace. You know what I have found? Of course, those religious songs really tend to touch us. We remember where we were. It's like for me also listening to the bagpipes when there's a funeral or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, my eyes are projectile crying.
I know. The guy just walks out, right, and starts to do it, and you're already in a mess. But I also have found that when you were explaining this, I've told you before how much I love Freddie Mercury, but he would get on stage and he would do ayo, ayo, ayo. He'd do that with everybody. Yeah. And then he'd get them to go do. Yeah. And that's the siren sound, I'm guessing.
It is.
His siren sound.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That explains
Those
a
are the
lot.
sounds. You notice how big his cheekbones were? How prominent? That is called the mask in voice. If you think of the drama and the comedy mask, and they have extreme like brows and jaw and cheeks, that's because when you want to project sound, you have to move the voice up into this part of the body, into what we call the mask.
Sure.
And that makes, and you won't tire when it goes up there because that's where your body was made to resonate. You just, it creates a feedback loop, keeps your body open.
So I've also found this in more modern songs. There's a song that I can't stop listening to. Every time I hear it, it makes me so happy because I love the singer who was the prominent singer in the band, which was Jefferson Starship, singing Miracles. And that whole song, I'm all up in here. It's all cerebral to me. And it touches my heart in such a sweet way and brings me back, my memory back and back. And to me, it is like a siren calling to me, calling me back. Yeah.
It is. It is that. About the memory.
Yep.
It's the wildest thing. I'll talk to someone and say, I remember I still get tears when you sang the Ave Maria. You couldn't have been more than 20. Right, and yet it moves them right back to the same emotional space. That is memory, sirens. That's what we do. Okay. We create with this when we're in the space in our hearts, in our inner eye. Our inner eye sees the vision that we're creating, right? And then we tone paint with our voice. We are transporting someone to our story, to our reality. That's time travel. That's shaman.
And thank you. That's the point. Somebody told me when I said, do you think we'll ever be able to time travel? And they say, you do it all the time.
Yep.
And I think song and voice are the most powerful of all the senses to do that. And I know you must because you enjoy doing it so much, but that's what I believe. When I hear a song, I'm transported back to when I first heard it or the memories of when I heard it before, and to me, it's more powerful than picture or anything else.
It's sound vibrations. Our sound vibrations going through the air. Your body, when someone else is singing, they don't know whether you're singing it. Your body is reverberating with the physical waves. It's not just your ears, it's physical. Right. Your body is of that substance and reverberates, resonates sympathetically.
Yeah. What a wonderful discussion. A lot of people here saying that Ave Maria has always been a song that has resonated with them at parents' funerals or people's funerals. Mary Thornberry, Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Oh, yes.
I don't know that one, but yeah.
Driving shoes, Lord, got on my traveling shoes. That's great.
Oh,
Oh, they'll
wow.
get you. They'll
Yeah,
get you.
yeah, yeah. Amazing Grace and Elvis. Elvis is in there.
Elvis had a
Um,
real sweet, clear tone.
he
That's what
did.
we're looking at.
Uh-huh.
When you do voice lessons, even when you have a gruff thought or you want to do rock, in the center of that tone that has full access to your high, medium, low range and soft to loud has a clear center sound.
Sure,
You
sure.
can always add the affects of the
Mhm.
gruffness, or certainly in your presentation style, you can
Yeah,
add attitude.
yeah.
But in the center, the one you can really, the voice you can really depend on is that clear,
Sure.
ringing tone,
Yeah.
even if you're a bad, bad, bad boy.
That's very true. Because Freddie was also a very bad boy at
Bad,
times. So
bad,
yeah, I get it. I
bad,
get it. I get
bad,
it.
bad, bad, bad.
Did you ever see the Kennedy Honors with um oh God, why can't I remember now? Um they did Stairway to Heaven. Um
Uh-huh.
and they got, this was during Obama, so, but it's on YouTube, and
Mhm.
they had a backup singers, and I've mentioned this before in other shows, but for some reason I pulled it up, and I have to watch it at least once a month because it just does something for me to watch the
Mhm.
faces, not only of the men who sang the songs, but how they wrote they had written the song, so essentially gave over everything to everybody, and then were able to let it go and realize that it wasn't their song anymore. It belonged to
Yes.
the world.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, okay. Miss Moonlight, I know you have an MFA. So she says she's had years of speech therapy, had to read out loud. It's great for getting used to talking in front of people.
Yes.
And have a special voice for drive-throughs. Honey, I get that. I have a very special voice for people who cut me off in traffic. I think we all do.
Comes
Or
in handy sometimes.
we have a special finger, one or the other.
I have one of those special fingers
Special
too.
fingers. Yes, yes. Anybody have any questions about this? Because to me, it's almost as though it's we talk about this, and we have talked about it before, but it's like a piece that many people, I don't think they discount it. I don't think they realize it though, that there's something about it.
May I
Yeah,
respond?
yeah,
Critical thinking.
yeah.
In fact, I got out the link to send to you. I love to listen to Gino Denning talk about critical thinking
Uh-huh.
and how the Pythagoreans were given a 12 knotted rope.
Hmm.
So you could do the 3, 4, 5 triangle.
Okay.
And that it was a measure of a person. So the 3 side was the trivium, the 4
Uh-huh.
side was the quadrivium, and the 5 side is the 5 senses. And you study in all of these areas and you become the full measure of a person.
Wow.
So, and as you study them together, you see how they just fit. People say
Yes,
that music is math, but you can see,
you can
you
see it.
can hear math. With an
Yeah.
octave or a unison,
Right.
an octave, and so just so I can share my passion about this, the
Please.
trivium is grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
Yes.
The quadrivium is number. So number in time, number in space, and number to the stars. So that would be math, geometry, music, and astronomy. That
Okay.
and then the 5 senses are our 5 senses.
Hmm.
Again, so we educate ourselves in the quadrivium with
Yes.
these observable patterns, and we see how they fit together. Then we use
Right.
our grammar, our logic, and then rhetoric to be able to talk about it. We also go through the 5 senses. So we what's that when you put them together? Put them all together. You put them all together.
Right. Yeah.
But
No. Synthesize.
People are into
Yes.
the math and the geometry, but they're not into the third part, which is the vibration. Music
Thank you.
is
Yeah.
there's ratio and proportion. There's ratio and proportion in music.
Sure.
It's a relationship to another sound. And Susan Lin in her show about a week and a half ago talked about her guides brought in the word analogous
Yep.
and analogous, which is different than analytical. Analytical are how things differ.
Yes.
And analogical are how things are the same. The language of music is related to, or vibration is related to, a fundamental wave and a predictable pattern of waves that
Right.
create whole numbers, create
Mhm.
very simple, following whole numbers, follow a very simple pattern, an octave, a fifth, and basic,
Yes.
everything that the most simple songs are made of.
Right.
So we tend to think that when we feel these vibrations, that it's what's that, insight, empathy, we're having an inspiration. Our gut is
Mhm.
telling us something,
Mhm.
and we
Right.
discount the fact that are observable patterns of high and low, and what we're feeling isn't just intuition. It's an
Mhm.
observable pattern of where sound is vibrating inside of us.
Mm.
And that's
Mm.
not just somebody's good idea. You can observe. Let's
Sure.
say you're a person that hasn't ever been able to speak the emotions yet. And the therapist says, "Where are you feeling that in your body?" And the
Mhm.
person says, "Well, I think it's no. Where
Is
are
you
you
thinking?
feeling that?"
Right.
And
Yeah.
it takes a while because it was
Yeah.
skipped. It wasn't valued in our original
Correct.
education. We could play the instrument maybe, but we don't quite get the
Right.
language of vibration. It's very simple. We discount it. Whereas
Mhm.
once you learn that you can make a sound that goes from low to high in your body, and your therapist then says, "Where are you feeling that?" And you could say, "Well,
Mhm.
run some sound in there." And you go, "Hmm." And then it hits something,
Oh,
and it's projectile crying again. You hit something. It's kinesthetic
I get it. I
instead
get
of
it.
that.
It's and sometimes if I'm really I have been holding back and holding back and holding back, it's louder and louder. It's like I gotta let that out. I gotta let that noise out.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you are absolutely right because as a teacher who has to have my students use critical thinking, they don't get the concept of it because they've been asked now, what is it that you feel or what comes up for you with this? It's even with a
Oh.
picture. And they say, I don't know, or they don't want to be wrong. And
Ah,
there is no wrong. And I'll even have students from China and some of the Asian countries, and they're not allowed to talk to their teachers. They're not allowed, the teacher is the only sage on the stage. And so they don't have that voice yet. And I do find that if they are invested in taking maybe an acting class, or they're taking a music class, or they're taking a class other than my own, that those people are more apt to be able to do it than other people who don't have the
mm.
training or the knowledge of how to do it. So that's fascinating.
And
Yeah.
the encouragement to reveal
Correct.
something.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Because again, oftentimes when you start to reveal, it just all comes out.
Oh,
And
it
it's like,
does.
"Oh my
Oh, it
god, oh
does.
my
I know.
god."
Where did it come from? We always ask that. We say to
Yeah.
ourselves, I don't know where this is coming from. Well,
Uh-huh.
yes, we really do.
It's just this
But we've been pushing it down all this time and we're not allowing it to come out. And if we don't allow these things to come out, we're going to have dis-ease.
yeah.
So that's a
And
whole other topic.
it
But
doesn't
yeah,
always have to be words. That's
doesn't
the
have
thing
to
with
be.
when you're
Correct.
training your voice, when you're really doing the words are over here, the gestures, you just let them all
Mhm.
go.
Yep. Yeah.
And you just condition the siren. Just condition the inside voice. And then you will end up choosing words that support that clear tone as
Correct.
opposed to just pushing emotion out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not to get back to these cards, I don't think we're going to go there today. But they did mention that she did mention in her book that there's two reasons why she did the two types of cards in here, and they do have to do with singing. So I want to make sure that I one of them is for the Lenormand. Let's see. Oh, one of them, she said, I believe, was for the melody, and the other is for the harmony. Are those two parts to a song, the melody and the harmony? Would that be right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the harmony is, well, the melody has harmony in it. So how would I say it? The melody sits above the harmonic waves.
Okay.
It moves within and out. It's
Okay.
one line, whereas harmony is a relationship to at least one other note.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's combining. It's more of a combination. Okay. So, I think that this woman, as much as she can in a card deck, it might be an interesting and fascinating thing. But yes, you are right that we have lost all of the wonderful, wonderful things that are in we're in Alexandria in Egypt, that library, and that actually got burned twice. And I know there's other libraries that
Cappadocia, Ephesus. I
uh-huh.
don't know all the
Yeah.
major ones just wiped us out. I mean, if you have critical thinking and a community of people that can go through that are educated, well, that's the value of a good
Purpose.
education.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
educated and valued in each of these 12 sections, and now you have the skills to be an informed citizen.
Yeah. 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 And and then we have current rhetoric that's being said that's too woke or it's anti-intellectualism, but it's a denigration of learning, really. It's just being
Anyone that can be swayed by ad hominems,
yes. Oh, yes.
what can you do?
Right. Yeah.
Go back to your basics. What are
Go back to the
logical
basics.
fallacies?
Yeah.
You know?
But see, there is such a resistance to it because it takes it gives people power, and a lot of people would rather disempower. But I believe that singing, using your voice in not only in singing and speaking, but in your writing, in your journals, even in your letters, which people don't write anymore, unfortunately. But it is finding your own voice, your true heart,
Yep.
and it's so important. It's
You
vital.
have to reflect it outward. It's just a
Correct.
well in there if you don't. My
Correct.
courses, you have to have a learning journal
Good.
because
Good.
it just happened. I mean, you'll be doing something and, working on your middle register, and these feelings come up or a picture will show up. And
Uh-huh.
it's just real important to just write it down as fast as you can and get it there.
Sure.
Because you're in such an altered state when you're really using your voice. It's hard you're back in dream time.
So it's a form of intuition. It's a form of psychic ability. It's a form of shamanism, which is what you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Yeah.
connected. And if
Uh-huh.
you're connected, my theater or trainer said, this song was written 200 years ago. And here you are in this year singing the exact same song, delivering the same emotion. People are having the same emotions they had
Sure.
200 years ago because that's
Because
time travel.
that's time
That's
travel.
shamanism.
It
That's
is. Absolutely.
transporting people into a different state of
Yeah.
consciousness.
Just as story is as well. There's so many connections
it.
through what I teach and what you teach. But I love, and I want to emphasize that Kelly pretty much gave up everything in order to develop these classes. It took her very many years to do so. And they're wonderful, I'm sure, and they're available, and I think I'll have to look into it myself. I could be 90 years old and I could still have a lot of things I needed to learn, but I agree with you with practice. I have to start out in my class, and they start out by reading a story by Annie Lamott, who I love, and it's called Shitty First Drafts.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And they read it, and it says, your first draft is just getting it down on the page. And so your first draft when you're singing is that you learn the lesson, but then you have to adapt that lesson to your voice and to your way of doing things. And you have to practice, because if you
Yeah, these are
don't,
just the skills. The
yeah.
skills. Everybody has to put their jaw at a certain position.
Uh-huh.
Everyone has to unlock their tongue. It's
Uh-huh.
everywhere in the whole wide world. Your body works in this very specific way. I
Mhm.
wanted to also talk, just before we move on,
Yeah.
about the power of, I'm thinking in my mind, two specific politicians and a
Okay.
few news people who use a very commanding voice when they
Right.
talk, and they speak in a certain way, and people resonate with them before they're in the loop,
Right.
before the rest of their critical thinking locks in, because there isn't any critical thinking going
I
on.
agree. I agree.
They're being manipulated by the power of the voice.
Mhm.
And if you don't know critical thinking, you can't go, now, wait a minute. It
Uh-huh.
might not sound like BS, but it sure
Yeah.
smells kind of funny.
Smells like BS. Right. Right. Right.
Oh, no, that couldn't, so that
Yeah.
I just feel it makes me so frustrated, because I can see
Yeah.
uh,
Well, when
they're
you,
lying through their teeth, but they're doing it
oh
with
no,
a
I get
very
it. But
powerful voice.
it's funny. You can go to YouTube and you can pull up a video of Adolf Hitler giving a speech in German. I understand no German, but I totally understand why those people were transfixed, because he used his power of his voice in order to manipulate. And you don't have to know what he's saying to know what he's doing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the same with your writing people. It might sound like a great thing, but if you don't have some basic rules of rhetoric,
Right. Right. Yeah. No, you're
that it
absolutely
reads
right.
like BS too. Look at that.
I wish we could all take all those political people and put them in a room and say, okay, we're not leaving here until you learn what you're supposed to be talking about.
They'd explode.
Yeah.
Couldn't.
Yeah, I know they would. They would. Absolutely. Well, this has just been extremely wonderful. Very well. Yeah, I love what we've been talking about, and I would love for you to come back again. I know there's some other people that are here that also have channels, and they may be calling on you to come on their channel as well,
Okay.
just so you know. But I am very anxious to see people go over and sign up for your channel. The information is down in the show information. And thank you to my subscribers and my members, and also my moderators for being so wonderful. Is there
Thank you
something
so
else you'd
much
like to
for
say
having
at
me.
all, Kelly? Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
say it, sing it, speak it,
Sing it.
try it, use your
That's
voice.
use your voice. Sing it, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Allie, thank you
Kelly.
for having me. I so
Oh,
appreciate
of
you
course.
coming.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for spending time with us. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.